Oh, okay. Yes, please, Michelle. We're live now. We can get started.
Good evening and welcome to the March General Meeting, a toast to BWL. My name is Michelle Cannady, President of BWL. I'm happy that you are joining us this evening as we walk down BWL memory lane and celebrate our distinguished organization. And I'm not going to belabor this welcome, and I'm going to turn the program over to your host for this evening, President-elect Lisa McLean.
Thank you very much, Michelle. It's good to see everyone here this evening. My name is Lisa McLean. I'm this year's President-elect of the Black Women Lawyers Association of Los Angeles. And before we get started tonight, I did want to give you a reminder that we have another event tomorrow, which is a members-only social hour. It's limited attendance, but there are a few spots available, and you do need to be logged in as a member to register. So you can check that out on our website if you'd like to join us for that. And now I will turn it over to our historian, Crystal Hayes Hill, to tell us a little bit more about BWL history.
Hello, good evening, everyone. My name is Crystal Hayes Fields, formerly Hill, and I am this year's historian. I am going to give you a brief overview of BWL and then introduce you to someone who's going to actually make it all come to life. And so I'll tell you a little bit more about that person after I give you my spiel, so to speak. The Black Women Lawyers Association of Los Angeles was founded in 1975 by a group of Los Angeles-based African-American judges and attorneys to address the needs and concerns of African-American women in the legal profession. The founding conveners were the Honorable Irma J. Brown, Lola M. McAlpin Grant, the Honorable Yvonne Brathwaite Burke, Michelle Washington McLaughlin, Sandra L. Carter, Brenda Shockley, Linda Taylor Ferguson, the Honorable Vaino H. Spencer, Shirly Henderson, and the Honorable Maxine Thomas. Our first president was Sandra L. Carter, followed by the Honorable Irma Brown, and then Shirly Henderson, and a long list of admirable women, up to and including our current 46th president, Michelle L. Cannady. Now, with this next part of the overview, I hesitate just a little bit before providing you the information, because we have someone here who was actually there when our organization was founded. And so I don't want to mess up the history at all, but she's going to give us a more personal perspective and view as to how things were started. But just to give you some information, in 1982, BWL and the Women Lawyers Association of Los Angeles co-founded the Family Law Center, which was established to provide pro bono family law services in Los Angeles County. Later, from my understanding, that became the Harriet Buhey Center. We'll hear more about that because I'm not sure if I exactly have the order of the establishment correct. But in 1991, BWL joined with various ethnic minority bar associations to form the Multicultural Bar Alliance. In 1992, the BWL Foundation was established to support our charitable, educational, and community-based services. BWL has provided holiday food baskets for needy families, donations to shelters for the homeless and battered women, as well as outreach and support to law students and attorneys. And we also regularly hold our signature events, the installation and awards dinner, the Thanksgiving Eve cocktail sip, and the annual retreat. We'd like to thank all of our new and continued and returning members for your support, and we'd like to continue with the program. So from my understanding, we have someone who's actually going to tell us a little bit about who is in this famous picture that we have on our website and we continue to use, and that's Heather Horn. She's going to do that, and then we'll hear from Shirly Henderson. Turning it over to you, Heather.
you so much, Crystal. Good evening. The picture you see now has become a familiar and welcome sight in many BWL materials and our events. Taken in 1975 at the Medallion Restaurant, this photo shows attorneys, judges, and government officials who've paved the way for us today. Some of you may know them and their stories. Many of these ladies were identified by 2019-2020 historian Jennifer Fisher. To our knowledge, these people who are, the attorneys that are pictured are Brenda Shockley, Ivy Roberts, Anseline Abraham, Lola McAlpin Grant, Hattie Harris, Maxine Thomas, Cheryl Meshach, Lois Duncan, Patty Jo McKay, Estella Dooley, Shirly Henderson, who we have here today, Edith Corlett, Marguerite Archie Hudson, Florence Packard, Patricia Davenport, Beatrice Lawson, Helen Rice Frederick, Margot Boucher, Judge Marion O'Bara, Michelle Washington McLaughlin, Audrey Jones, Sandra Carter, Judge Vaino Spencer, Congresswoman Yvonne Burke, Luella Taylor, and last but not least, Constance Bynum. Next, I'm going to pass the program to Ms. Shirly Henderson.
Hello, everyone. I guess I'm going to be the official historian tonight because I'm one of the few people still around that was there at this time. Since you have that picture up, I just want to correct one thing. Yvonne Burke was not there that day. She was not pictured in the picture, and she was one of our founding conveners. She was actually a co-founder, so I'll set that out for you in a minute. But since the picture's up, I might as well just let you know that she was not there that day, nor was Irma Brown. She couldn't make it. And there was one other person, and I think Linda Ferguson was not there in the picture. They could not make it that day, and they were one of our founding conveners. So that's what I want to just tell you a little bit about that picture. And Patty Jo McKay later became a judge. So this is why at the time of this picture, she was not a judge, but she later became a judge. So, I think that's about all I can say about the picture. So back in 1974, Justice Vaino Spencer, she was Judge Spencer at that time. She had always thought about having an organization of Black women lawyers because she had been a member of Langston for many years, and Langston was never going to have a woman as president during those eras. It was really the good old boys organization. And so she had decided that it was time for us to get together, since we were having more and more Black women lawyers coming out at that time. And we need to talk about our interests and what we need to promote each other and for us to do better and become judges. And so she started talking to some of us at that time. She talked to Sandra Carter, and Sandy talked to me. And so we talked to Vaino about that. And she said, I want you ladies to go out and start talking to people about this and get a group of women together and see what we can do to get this organization started. So she, along with Congresswoman Yvonne Burke and Vaino Spencer are really our co-founders of the organization. So they talked to Sandy and me, and she said that Sandy Carter always wanted to, she always created things. So she was the main organizer. So she decided those two people were our co-founders, and she and I became the co-conveners. And everyone else that you named as convening members, those were the convening members, as we call the founding conveners, is what Sandy titled those people. And they were people that went around to spread the word, as it were, to everybody and say, hey, we're going to do this. We're going to have this organization. We want you to become involved. So that's how we started things going back in 1974 to get the word out and get people involved and let them know that we were going to start this. So we decided that we'd have this luncheon, which was at the Medallion Restaurant on Wilshire Boulevard. And the building's still there, but the restaurant is long gone. And so we decided we'd have a luncheon there. and have all the women come, which is where that picture was taken, on the staircase leading down from the restaurant to the main floor. That's where that picture was actually taken. And there's some people in the picture who were guests, so which is why you didn't hear everyone named in the picture, because some of them were guests, and somewhere along the way we didn't really get their names, and so they weren't named, but there's about 3 or 4, at least in that picture, that were guests of people that were there, that were, some of them they were not lawyers, but they were there to help us out. So that's why we don't have the names of everyone that's in the picture to date. So we had the luncheon, and Sandy thought we were going to have a whole lot of people there. So we ordered all these lunches, and needless to say, we had too much food. So everyone said, great, we're going to start the organization, we're going to get started. So Sandy said, what are we going to do about this bill? So Sandy was this master of talking to people about working stuff out. So she told them, we'll have an event around Thanksgiving here, and you can freeze the food and we'll make hors d'oeuvres out of it, because it was chicken. So people said, well, we won't freeze the food, but what we will do is we'll allow you to come in and we will bake hors d'oeuvres for you, and we will see what kind of money you bring in, and we can work something out. So that's how the Thanksgiving cocktail sip got started, that Thanksgiving. So we could pay off our debt to the Medallion Restaurant from how much food we had at the original luncheon. So there's like a arch, what do you call it? As you come up to the top of the stairs, there's like a landing, a big, huge landing where you can look down into the lobby of the building. So we took that big, huge landing. We invited people to come. We sold tickets, I think, and I actually have one, and I think it's in the museum. The Cam has all our stuff at the California African American Museum, and I think that ticket is there. I think we sold for like $3 or something. And we did raffle tickets too. We raffled off turkeys. And so we invited people, and the whole floor, which was a huge space up above, was packed with people that came. We had a boom box on the floor, and people were just standing around talking and dancing and drinking and eating the hors d'oeuvres. And we made a whole lot of money, and we paid off the restaurant. We paid off our debt, so we didn't have any problem with that. And so we decided, this is great. So as Sandy created the name, she called it the Pre-Thanksgiving Cocktail Sip. And that was the name she gave it. And over the years, people just waited to come. And so we got bigger and bigger and bigger over the years. And we went to several places throughout the city, and they'd always, the fire marshals would shut us down because there would be too many people. So we kept moving it around the city all over. We were in Beverly Hills, we were in the marina, we were every place we thought we could find big enough for us to have the event. We stayed at the Biltmore Hotel for several years because it was big enough. And we went to Century City, and we were there for a long time in Century City. And so we always made a whole lot of money, and everybody loved to come. So it was nothing going on during that time. And people later on started having events, but we were the ones that started having something starting like at 5 o'clock. So people could come right from work. And, you know, and as we got bigger and bigger, we had people, entertainers, some people doing live music. Then we had a DJ come for later on. So for the young people can hang out late in the evening because they weren't going home to cook like we were, the old folks in BW. We went home and cooked, so we left early, and the young people stayed on later and partied till about 12, 1 o'clock. So that's how the Pre-Thanksgiving Cocktail Sip got started, all from that very beginning when we first got started. And so that's the beginning of BWL at that time. And so, as I said, Justice Spencer, she had this great idea, and everyone loved it. And so we got started that way. And let me see. Anything else you want me to talk about right now? I can tell you. Should I go into the BWL Center? Okay. As I was mentioning about the BWL Center, in 1982, under Judge Maybelline Ephraim, we started what was called the Family Law Center. And it was on 76 and Central Avenue. And that's what later became the Harriet BWL Center. But we started it, and the building was provided to us. It was like a house right there on 76 and Central, kind of a nice big building. And we started out there. Maybelline had worked with the city attorney's office doing domestic violence cases. She was a prosecutor there. And so when we originally started, what we did was we really kind of handled domestic violence cases only when we started at that time to assist women of domestic violence. So that's how we actually started. And later on, we had the women lawyers came in and they joined us. And then farther down the road, the LA County Bar came in and joined us. And we moved to a couple of different locations before we are where we are now. And we became the Harriet Bew High Center down the road a little bit after that. Assemblywoman Maxine Waters provided us with our supplies originally. The Brotherhood Crusade provided us with the building at that time, and our own members volunteered to work there. So that's how we originally started it as a Family Law Center, which later became the Harriet Bew High Center as it is today. And let me see, anything else I can talk about what we did along the road. We had retreats, many retreats, as you're very well aware of. We started that, which was a great idea to bring in people. And so that was something we would do before, as we continue to do now. We started that back then in the early days. So that's what we were doing to get our members to come in. And one of the best one I love was the one that I had a condo in Palm Springs. So I brought everybody out to Palm Springs. It's like 19 units in a big kind of circle lot, and people rented out some of the condos, and we had a ball, and just, it was so fantastic, hanging out by the pools and just having a good time. So, and we always try to have a lot of fun at our retreats. So that was one of my fondest memories. And there was this judge that had a condo right next to mine, and he came walking out with this little skivvy little trunks on. Everybody started cracking. I said, "Woo, is that brother? Looking good over there." So, so we had a lot of stuff going on. We always had good times at our retreat. So that was something that we did to help the organization along, that we started doing that. And so I think I'll stop right there, and anything else I think of later on, I'll chime in.
Well, thank you very much. It's also always great to have a firsthand account of some of these stories that we've heard for a long time. And I know you did mention Justice Vaino Spencer. So next we have Cynthia Cannady to tell us a little bit more about Justice Spencer.
Thank you, Lisa. I'll start with a photo. Let's see. This is a photo that's very dear to me. It sits on my desk, and I actually have a lot of photos of Vaino Spencer because she's, well, a lot of the photos are actually at Southwestern Law School, where we delivered this huge pile of boxes of amazing photographs and documents of hers. They are archiving them. And it was impossible to access the collection because of COVID right now. But this is, I'll start with this. I mean, this is really the photo that I have that reminds me of so many things. Vaino Spencer was my godmother. And the man in the checkered jacket was her husband, Lorenzo Spencer, otherwise known as the Silver Fox. He was quite a person in my memory as a little girl. He was very handsome and dynamic. He was a realtor. The man on the right was my father, George Cannady. And the woman on the left was my grandmother, Beatrice Morrow Cannady, who herself practiced law in Oregon and was a graduate of law school. Vaino and my father had a law office on 29th and Western, 2902 Western. And I used to stop by there almost every day on the way back from school. And Vaino was my hero. I knew she was my godmother, but what I noticed was she was incredible. She had this office with the books. This picture was from my father's side of the office. They had twin sides of the office. But she had the fanciest office furniture that I had ever seen, all streamlined and modern and elegant. That was Vaino, and I'll talk more about that, but I'm just trying to explain right now the context. So let's go back. I'll keep this picture on the side, and I'll tell you something about her, her personality, what she stood for, and the times that she was a part of, and really her legacy. First, her background. Her parents were Nona and Abdul Hassan. Spencer is from Lorenzo Spencer, the man in the checkered, the handsome man in the checkered jacket there. Nona was an African-American woman, very sweet. She lived to be about 100 years old, so I knew her. Maybe I'll say more about her a little bit later. Her husband was Abdul, who was actually from Sri Lanka. So Vaino, like Kamala Harris, who she adored, by the way, was genetically part Black and part Sri Lankan. But she never claimed the Sri Lankan part. In any event, she grew up with these parents in South Central LA. Actually, it was on the east side where they lived in those days. And her father was an actor. Her mother was a homebody, kind of. Vaino, I'm not sure where she developed the idea of becoming a lawyer. She was a dancer and an actress very briefly. She then she went to LA City College, and she sent herself to law school at Southwestern, which you have to understand in those days, Southwestern was not an accredited law school. It was a place where people could go, working people could go at night, and they let Black people go there. So Vaino went there. She was working full-time during the day, partially dancing and acting and partially doing clerical work. And she got through Southwestern. She was a superior student. She then took the bar and started sharing office space with my father at 2902 Western. She immediately plunged herself into politics and also some controversial cases. I think one of her first cases was integrating University Hospital, which I think, was it Lisa who said you were actually born there? Some of the Black doctors in town, is that right?
Yeah.
Some of the Black doctors in town in LA, there are like 10 of them at that time. We're talking the 1950s and early 60s. Couldn't get admitting privileges. So Vaino drew up a complaint, delivered it, and fairly quickly it settled. The hospital backed off and provided admitting privileges to Black doctors. So I guess I want to say as a theme, I see Vaino Spencer as a portrait of a time. She was a very important figure in the second half of the 20th century in Los Angeles. This was very important because Los Angeles was new. There weren't that many Black people in Los Angeles, and they all knew each other, or many of them knew each other. But it was small and it was difficult. At the same time, she's not just a symbol, she was a very unique person. She's sort of a timeless woman for reasons that I'll tell you. She was unique in every way. And yet she was very representative of this particular time period, 1950 approximately, to the first decade of the 21st century. So back to the story. She and my father were practicing in this is really a house, sort of a large house on the corner of 29th and Western. Vaino was very political. She got involved in Democratic Party politics. She became a Democratic Party committee woman. This is a Black woman in the 1950s. And you also have to understand, in those days, there were some Black men lawyers, just a few. My father was one. Stanley Malone, Lauren Miller, Earl Brody, Leo Branton, importantly. They all knew each other. They were all practicing sort of close to each other in the same general vicinity. Vaino was the only woman. And this was a time, I can say this because I was a child then, this was a time when the idea of a woman lawyer was really strange. For you young women, you don't understand how strange it was. People would say a lady lawyer. It was kind of a joke. So Vaino was practicing and also being political at this time. This is very important to understand. It's completely different than it is now. So she became a state Democratic committee woman, which is a big accomplishment. She did did this through a lot of alliances. Vaino was, Shirley, you can underline this.
Okay.
She loved Shirley, by the way. She was an alliance maker. She was always connecting with people, white people and Black people. Some of the leftist white lawyers of the time, Jack Tenner was one of them. I remember him vividly. And Shirley, you probably can list some of the other ones. These were people who helped her achieve her goals. She became friendly with Pat Brown, the governor. And it was he who appointed her to the municipal court. And this was earth-shattering, a Black woman on the court in California. One of the things about Vaino, though, which anyone who knew her remembers, it wasn't enough for her to be ambitious. She was personally ambitious, but it was always about bringing other people behind her. She was always thinking, okay, how can I use my position to help the next generation? That was Vaino. That was absolutely the way she thought about everything. In my relationship with her, she was always teaching me. Some of her lessons were superficial things like you have to always look good. You know, you never go out of the house looking bad. You don't go out with your hair looking bad. And she would chastise me for, you know, even when I was 60 years old, she was still chastising me about taking care of my physical appearance. But this was part of her sense of self-worth. You can look at this picture and look at her smiling and beaming. This is the way she was. It was always this kind of inner self-confidence and dignity. She was all about dignity. You know, you never saw Vaino acting subservient. Never. She was elegant. Vaino had the most beautiful clothes of any woman I have ever seen. She told me, you know, don't dress in those dumpy clothes. Don't come in here in jeans and things. And she herself, her clothing was always nice fabric, silk, you know, corsages. She was ultra feminine, but not fakey. She was never feminine in the sense of being unduly deferential. She was feminine, but she was assertive. And this was part of her genius, part of her brilliance. She could be charming, extremely charming to any man or woman, but never, but always dignified. Vaino was never vulgar. She didn't curse or use any bad words. I mean, no vulgarity, no sexual references, never. Always a lady. She was very devoted to her mother. This is another theme about her. It's very interesting. I'm sure all of us can relate to this because for many of us, we are a reflection of all the work our mothers have put into us. And Vaino never forgot that. She took care of her little mother and sometimes called her my little mother. Her mother was very little. She was tiny. But Vaino would dress her, even when she was very old, she'd have parties for her, dinner parties. That was one of her values. Let's see, friendship and alliances. This was another value of hers that's instructive for all of us. Shirley, when she was speaking earlier, talked about how Vaino would say, now this is what we're going to do. Right? And Patty Titus, Judge Titus, has talked about how, and you know, anyone who knew her, Vicky Macbeth, Vaino would call you up and say, okay, this is what we're going to, no, she wouldn't say, okay, excuse me. She would never begin in such a plebeian way. She would just say, now, this is what we should do. And then she would proceed to tell you what you should do. Part of this was because she had deep friendships and she made alliances. Some of the people of that time, you know, she knew Leo Branton very well. He was her neighbor. I don't know how many of you know Leo Branton, but he was Angela Davis's attorney, Nat King Cole's attorney. They were dear friends, and she devoted time to friendships. David and Weta Williams, Judge Williams. I think he was the first Black federal judge in California. My father, she was a devoted friend of his up until his death. Devotion to law, another theme. Sometimes people associate Vaino more with her organization, her alliances, and her political life. But she was very much a lawyer. In her conversations with me, I often admired the way she could dissect an issue. She kept up with the law. She was very intellectual about law and had great self-confidence about it. She didn't feel any, in a sense, of being a second-class citizen in any way. She could match wits with any lawyer, and that's just the way she felt. She worked hard at it too. Humor. She's a very funny person when she got started. Very strong-willed person. She was determined, very determined. So those are the personal characteristics. I have so many memories of her, I don't even know where to start. I come back to this picture of her looking up at my father. I believe this picture was taken when he passed the bar, or maybe fairly soon afterwards. So it was in his office, so maybe it was later. She was just a very vibrant, encouraging woman. Look at that face. We're doing a scholarship in her honor at Southwestern Law School, and I ask you all to keep it in mind. It's the Vaino Spencer Endowment Fund. And it's something that Black Women Lawyers has started. It's, I think our goal, I know what our goal is to fund the endowment at $100,000. We currently have $62,000. And we have a couple of other donors who are probably going to make some good gifts in the near future. The dean of the law school herself, Susan Prager, has given generously to it. And Black lawyers have given generously to it. Our goal, as I said, is to get to $100,000 so that it can be a sustaining scholarship in her honor or fund for judicial externships, either one or the other or both. And a portrait of Vaino hangs in the dean's office. And I wanted to bring it, but we can't get in there. It's a beautiful photo of her. She is wearing a black hat tilted at an angle. And she's smiling with kind of a Mona Lisa smile. She has a fascinator hanging down from the hat. It's a reminder to us of our power as women and of our duty to help each other. And that's what Vaino was about. I hope that we can support the scholarship in her honor. In November of this year, it will be the 60th anniversary of her swearing in as a judge. And we're going to do an event in honor of that important date. And I just put it on your, in your mental framework, and we'll send out the exact date in the next month or so. But please think about the scholarship and think about what you can do to, more importantly, exemplify her legacy in your lives. That's all I have.
I'd like to add a couple of things to that. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. That came to mind as she was talking about Vaino. The fond memory I have of her when she would call me on the phone and she'd say, "Shirley dear, this is Vaino." That's how she'd always ask. "Shirley dear, this is Vaino. I have something I want you to do." And she would go on and tell you what she wanted to do, and you always had to do whatever she wanted you to do. I said, "Yes, ma'am." Okay. And she was just such a wonderful person. And I'd ask her, I said, "How you feel today?" She says, "Not worth a damn, but we need to do this." And she would go on and on and on and on about what you need to do. And she was just so wonderful. I miss her so much to this day. But I just wanted to give them a little history about her. Think about us in the early days, because she graduated from LA Poly High School valedictorian in 1938 for you ladies out there. And she was summa cum laude from Los Angeles City College in 1949 because she decided she wanted to go back to school, and she had thought about being a lawyer because she was in real estate, which is really where she started out. So she went to Southwestern at night and graduated in 3 years. And the night class is usually 4 years. She graduated in 3 years in 1952, and she was sworn in that summer in 1952. She was appointed to the bench, as you had already mentioned earlier, in 1961 municipal court. She was the first Black woman to be so appointed to a court in California and the third in the country at that time. I met her in 1971 when I was a law clerk for the public defender's office, summer law clerk. And I worked out of the courts. I was clerking in the courtroom actually. So, and there was this, I had a white supervisor, and he said to me, he just used to just rave about her all day. That woman, that Vaino Spencer, that judge down there, she is so beautiful. And he'd always talk about like that. And I started saying, here's the white man talking about a beautiful Black woman, okay? And he says, and she's so intelligent and so smart, you know? And that's what really impressed me. He said, and she's so intelligent and so smart. So when I had my break time, I'd go sit in her courtroom and watch her. And I'd listen to these lawyers as they come in, and they would always say stuff like, you know, this woman is just so beautiful. They'd always, every lawyer that came in these meetings would always talk about how beautiful, and then they always say, and she's smart too, you know, and she knows what she's doing too. So I always thought, at least they're gonna say she's a beautiful Black woman, but she's also smart, knows what she's doing, and she knows the law. So that was always so impressive about it, that, and she was very soft-spoken on the bench. She didn't raise her voice, but she would tell them what she was gonna do, her rulings, and they would listen, and the court would be quiet when she talked. And she just, and it was just so wonderful to see her there on the bench. She was such an inspiration. And then in 1980, she got elevated to the Superior Court in downtown. Some of you may not know, there used to be two courts. There was a municipal court, that was a lower jurisdiction court, just like in civil, where you have the $25,000 or less. That was like the municipal court stuff. Let me clear this thing out of here. And so they merged, but she got appointed to the Superior Court, and then later the municipal and Superior Court merged. And then when she got appointed to the Court of Appeals, she was actually the second Black woman appointed to the Court of Appeals. And I'll give you a little story. Justice Arlie Woods was the first woman appointed to the California Court of Appeals. That was 1 month before Vaino. And I'm pretty sure the reason was because the position became available was for the presiding judge of the Court of Appeal Division 1. So 1 month later, Vaino got appointed directly to the Court of Appeals as the presiding judge of that division. So I speculated that that's why they let Arlie take the first position, because that was just as a regular justice on the bench. And then 1 month later, Vaino became the presiding judge of Division 1 of the Court of Appeals. And she was the first Black woman to be appointed a presiding judge in the Court of Appeals. And Arlie was the first one to be appointed as a judge in the Court of Appeals. So that's how that worked out. So she, as I said, she was very close to Governor Brown, and he's the one that appointed her. So I'm sure they worked that little thing out so that would work out that way. And she just was such a joy. And she was there on the bench in 46 years on the bench in California before she retired in 2007. And one important thing I want you to know about her, that as a member of Langston for many years, many years, she started in 1955, the Wives of the Bench and Bar. People keep calling me on this. The Wives of the Bench and Bar, which was the spouses of the lawyers in California, the Black lawyers, and it's now called the Bench and Bar Spouses. So she started that organization, even though she was a lawyer, she started that. So she thought it would be something to get the women involved. There was mostly men in the organization. There was only a few women lawyers at that time, Black women lawyers. So, but she thought that the wives of men should get involved, as well as the husbands of the few Black women who were involved in it. So that's something she started, just showing the kind of person she was, that she wanted to reach out to everybody, have everyone involved. And also, besides that, I think in 1976, along with 1979, Judge Joan Dempsey Klein, they formed the National Association of Women Judges. And she was one of the early presidents of that organization as well. And then later on, she formed along with Justice Klein at that time too, the International, the National Association of Women Judges. They had an international section that she formed as well. She was just such a wonderful woman. And we're so fortunate to have her. And, you know, and as I said, she passed away at 96, so she had a long life, but she was just great. And BWL, we formed which we need to get involved in, ladies. We formed the first annual Judicial Excellence Award. It's named after Vaino Spencer. And we gave her the first award honoring her. It was the Vaino Spencer Judicial Excellence Award. And it's an award that we can use. The plan was, when we formulated that we can give that award out to judges each year as a Judicial Excellence Award to give that out. So that was something that we thought we would do. So just don't forget that that's there. And I don't think we've given anybody any awards on it after that. I could be wrong, but because I'm getting old, so I forget things. But I just don't want anybody to forget that, because we named that after her. And we hopefully can donate more scholarship money for the award that is given out at Southwestern, Judicial Extern, named after her at Southwestern. So I just want to add those few things so you kind of get another feel for this wonderful woman.
May I add one other quick personal recollection? Lisa, is that okay?
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
I just thought of something else that's important for her legacy to remember her by: her humor and her happiness. She said she would like to say, don't worry about things. And she was a pretty upbeat person. And she said, don't wrinkle your face. This is very important for Vaino. I would sometimes have, furrow my brow and things. And she said, it's like, just imagine someone just told you that your best friend died. And what kind of expression should you have on your face? And then she made a face and she said, oh. It was her way of saying, don't, just, oh, nothing, don't get panicked. Don't wrinkle your face, take things in stride. That was Vaino too. That was another really important thing she always emphasized. Don't be too frantic about things. And that was part of her just calm. Shirley, would you agree with that characterization of her?
Yeah,
Just be happy. And when she was dying, when she was really getting old, she was all about telling me, enjoy life, be happy.
I'm getting some calls from people. That's what keeps buzzing on my phone. They're trying to get into the meeting, evidently, and they're waiting to get in. They said the passcode was not working or something. So if anyone can let some people in the meeting, whoever has control of the meeting, there's 2 people out there evidently waiting, trying to get in. That's why my phone keeps blowing up on me. So.
Okay, well, thank you for letting us know that. Yeah. And thank you very much for all of those wonderful memories. We have a lot of comments in the chat where everyone really appreciates all of the memories and the personal stories. Was very, very much appreciated. And mentioning one of the other names I know that has come up so far in our history is the Harriet Buhai Center for Family Law. And we have Elizabeth Stewart with us here this evening to tell us a little bit more about that.
Good evening, everybody. I'm going to try and share my screen. Okay. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you, Elizabeth.
Okay, good. Okay, so we got some history from Ms. Shirley. BWL has a very rich history of public service, and we find that in the establishment of what is now the Harriet Buhai Center. As said, it began in 1982 under the leadership of the Honorable Maybelline Ephraim. It was done with support from many people within the community. Maxine Waters was mentioned, the president of Walala was mentioned, and the Los Angeles County Bar also later came in to help establish what has now become the Harriet Buhai Center. The Family Law Clinic was originally a place where mostly women could come and get restraining orders. It then morphed and expanded to what we know as the Harriet Buhai Center. So here is a picture of some of the founders and sponsors. Ms. Shirley, I would love it if you could chime in and maybe identify some of the folks in this photo.
If I'm still able, I'll try.
Now, have you shared your screen yet, Elizabeth? We don't see anything.
Uh-oh, yes, I did. Hold on.
Lisa, is Elizabeth able to share her screen?
Do you see it now?
Looks like,
Yes.
yes.
There you
Yes,
go.
it's up.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes, we can see it now.
Okay. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so we're back to the photo. Can you identify anybody, Ms. Shirley?
Oh, let me see here. Gotta get my glasses. Maybelline is there in the middle with the suit on. That's Maybelline. I'm over there second from the right with the white looking jacket. That's me.
Yeah.
Vera Brown Curtis, the second from the left. The late Vera Brown Curtis was very active in the center for many, 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 many years, representing me.
Yeah.
And the lady next to her on her, as you're looking at it on her right, she was from Women Lawyers, and I can't remember her name, but she was also very, very active for many, many years. And I don't know if she still is. And those are the people that I recognize. I can tell you their names. The rest of them I can't remember.
Okay, thank you.
But the man on the end was from the LA County Bar. He was from the LA County Bar.
Okay.
And he was,
Okay.
yeah.
So Harriet Buhai was a certified family law specialist and an activist. She provided pro bono legal assistance to needy families in South Central Los Angeles and was an active member of WLALA. After her death in 1983, her colleagues and friends proposed that the center be renamed in her honor. Okay, today the center is located in the Koreatown area of Los Angeles and has expanded to become one of the primary providers of pro bono family law services, with continuing with a particular expertise in domestic violence. The center provides legal assistance to over 1,000 persons and 2,000 children each year. The majority of the center's clients are individuals, are mothers, victims of domestic violence, and make $900 per month or less. The center has a pioneering self-help program empowering people to at least gain enough information to be able to represent themselves in these proceedings. And it has been, this structure has been incorporated by many other institutions in the Los Angeles community and elsewhere. In recognition of BWL's significant community contributions as a founder and co-sponsor of the Harriet Buhai Center, along with WLALA, both organizations received the very first annual Public Service Award given by the National Conference of Women Bar Associations. This was a very prestigious award, and it was done at the U.S. Supreme Court. More recently, in 2020, the longstanding executive director of the Harriet Buhai Center and BWL lifetime member, Ms. Betty Nordwind, received the prestigious Spencer Brandeis Award from the Los Angeles County Bar. This award pays tribute to individuals who have an extraordinary impact on family law through creative legal advocacy and commitment to service. To this day, BWL provides financial support to the center, and a BW member serves on the center's board of directors, which currently is yours truly. It's just a great organization to be a part of, and I'm just insanely proud that BWL had such a significant role in it. Thank you. That's the end of my presentation.
And thank you very much, Elizabeth, for that look into the Harriet Buhai Center. And next, we'll hear from one of our past presidents, Carla Pittman.
Hi, good evening, ladies, and thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here, and I would say I represent the illustrious group of past presidents that are still very much active and a part of Black women lawyers. I'll just give you a little bit of my history, and so fast forward from what Shirley was talking about in the 70s to the 80s. I was actually president from 86 to 87. So back then, still, sort of as you've been told, I would say a significant number of the membership was government oriented. They either worked for the government or were somehow connected to the government. And so at that time, we were having our installations at City Hall, either in the rotunda or another part, but it was because the organization was so connected to local government at that time. We've expanded since then, obviously, and we have our installation and lunches at different venues throughout the city and the county for that matter. But at that time, we were pretty much focused downtown. And I would say that the focus has always been in terms of giving back, as Shirley has talked about and you've heard about with Cynthia about Justice Spencer. It's always been about charity, giving back and passing it forward, right? And that hasn't changed. And I would say going forward in terms of looking at where you are now, and I'm so happy to see you expand your membership, right? So it's beyond the government, it's beyond the local, downtown lawyers, you're everywhere. And you've expanded into other sectors, which I'm happy to see. Because at that time I was in the government, right? So it was the city attorney's office where I worked. The city attorney, who was Jimmy Hahn at the time, actually installed me, right? But then I went corporate, and what I like and I'm seeing now, as I say, about the variety of your membership, you're including corporate lawyers, you're including, the private sector, the tech center, technology, biotech. And I would encourage you to continue doing that because we are in all of these fields now. And we wield power, right? When we pull together and network like we're doing now. I still talk to lawyers even now that I'm out of being in-house and I'm outside consulting, but still when I talk to lawyers in those other sectors, I still get the message of, why do I need to be a part of BWL? Right? What's in it for me? And I always say to them, I don't care whether you're financial or not. If you're Black, if you're a woman and you're a lawyer, you are automatically considered, part of Black women lawyers. And as I said, you're missing out on a fantastic networking opportunity. So I would just encourage you to keep spreading the word like you're doing, keep doing the kind of outreach that you're doing. And yeah, I'm happy to see it. I'm happy to see even those past presidents I see in the chat that are participating in the meeting. I owe so much to BWL, and I think there are many of us on this call in the meeting tonight who feel that way. I can never say no. So when I get the call, like from you or from Crystal, it's like, yeah, okay, what do you need me to do? You know, just like Shirley said, you get that call, I still respond like, okay, what do you need me to do? But it's because I know I wouldn't be where I am today if I hadn't gotten that initial hand up from Veronica Macbeth, who, you know, helped me out when I first started. Maybelline, it's the same story. There's always someone then in the organization that can help you. And so, as I said, I'm not going to repeat myself, but just continue doing what you're doing. You're doing great. And thanks so much for having me. That's all I have to say.
Thank you very much for being here, and thank all of you. We have a lot of comments in the chat. Everyone really enjoyed the inspiration, the memories, and the stories. So if anyone has any questions, you can put it in the chat or raise your hand before we lose our wonderful panelists here. Yeah, lots of comments about Justice Spencer. Everyone very much admired Justice Spencer. Shirley, everyone loves your historical accounts. You keep us on top of everything that happens, so thank you for that.
You're quite welcome.
Yeah. Okay, and with that, it doesn't look like I see any more additional questions, just a lot more, compliments and thank yous to all of our wonderful panelists. And I also thank you very much for being here, and thank everyone for joining us this evening. And again, don't forget, registered members, if you're available, we have a members only social hour tomorrow night. You can check it out on our website. And thank you, everyone, and good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. All right.